It started out by saying, I'll bite. I have not and will not get the shot under any circumstance. I could get into why, but it should be obvious enough at this point. I will never trust the government, its affiliate organizations, or the media, and fuck Bill Gates. Tell me where I'm wrong. Now, if there's one thing...
Oh, wait, hold on. And what was my reply?
Well, you deleted it, so it's kind of... I gotta...
Do you remember? Do you remember it?
I think someone saved them.
Yeah. Even though I delete my tweets, people screenshot them and put them back up. And just FYI, I normally always delete my tweets. I have a history for years of doing that. So it's not me deleting it in the face of a conversation me and you had, anything like that. And actually, the guy who came in before you, the reason that I had that post where I said, don't delete your tweets after I destroy your points, because if you go back and look, those tweets are still up. He deleted all his tweets.
Okay. I mean... Fair. I'm not much of a tweet deleter. But I'm on there less, I suppose. I found it a bit odd, if I'm being honest. You know what I mean? No disrespect, but
what sounded odd?
No, just you deleting all your tweets.
I always delete my tweets though, for various reasons.
Okay.
I delete basic tweets. I delete shows that have passed. I've always deleted my tweets. That's nothing controversial. Maybe controversial to you.
I mean, I suppose the conversation was very fresh at the time, but sure.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So what I said to you was, it's not actually obvious. Vaccines are safe and effective. I said, fuck Bill Gates. Why? Which is a question back to you. He's responsible for saving millions of people's lives and bettering them at the same time. Right. And then I said, well, the government is a very vast organization that protects the basic rights and needs that me and you actually share and take part in and enjoy.
Of course, the government is a vast organization. There's no doubt about that. Politics and government are also slightly different in their own respect.
Yeah, that's everything. Everything about the government is not politics.
Absolutely. And if there's any part of my tweet that I would recant there, I would have it be the obviously that I said, because I do also understand that we are living through the greatest misinformation war that has ever happened. And
really, ever?
I will say, because of the complexities of social networks and these things that are new to society, that yes, this is a more multi-pronged misinformation campaign. I would think so. The old ones were pretty cut and dry. You just told the news in the paper and people believed it. At this point,
there were multiple newspapers through the history of America. Multiple newspapers, multiple radio stations, multiple television stations with different points of views and perspectives. So
I understand, but the dynamic of social
as well as books and other kind of material, magazines. Right, there were pamphlets. There was a huge pamphlet culture here in America, where you had the full-on Communist Party operating in America at a full magazine, right, a full pamphlet. So, I mean, there's opportune time, even in history, where misinformation campaigns of mass, right, where you couldn't even really escape it.
Absolutely.
Right, existed.
Absolutely. I would say, I mean, governments in general have been corrupt from the beginning, and they use misinformation as a tool to keep people in line. I wouldn't disagree with that one bit.
All governments are inherently corrupt from the beginning.
Absolutely.
All of them?
I mean, I would say that is that is my belief. I haven't really seen one go great, and I have little faith in ours, and I can obviously get more into that as we dig. What I was trying to get at is saying that in my tweet specifically, me saying obviously, that is the one thing I would take back, because that was kind of a dick thing to say, just because it isn't so obvious to some. I've obviously been paying very close attention to a lot of this.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm sure you have, and we have very different conclusions.
Are you sure
that we have reached?
Hold on, are you sure?
I'm not 100% positive, but I guess we'll find out through this conversation.
Find out. Let's let the conversation happen before we make decisions, right? Because you don't know where this is going to go.
Absolutely. Okay. I don't think either of us do. I mean,
I do.
Okay. Interesting. Now, my stance is, yes, that of a quote-unquote conspiracy theorist. I wear that badge proudly. You are one of the artists who initially led me down that path, which we can speak a bit about in a sec. But my stance on this matter is that
if you don't mind, can we do that right now to get that out of the way? Because I feel like that's some of the ammunition that your followers have been kind of bringing up. They've been bringing up words I never said. They've been bringing up songs like American Terrorist and trying to use that as if my work in the past somehow makes my comments today seem like I'm betraying them or I've sold out or something like that. So can we focus on that before we get to the other piece? Sure. I think this should be solved.
Sure. And before I bring up anything that could even hint on hypocrisy, let me first acknowledge that we are all hypocrites to some extent, myself included, because I will be Big Pharma heavily today, and my own recreational and prescription drug use are well known and public knowledge. Nobody's perfect, least of all me.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you had prescription drug use.
Oh, yeah, but I've done my share of drugs, and I've been on Adderall since I was in 7th grade. So it's like, as much as I critique Big Pharma, I also can acknowledge I'm a fan of some of their products.
Okay. All right.
And nobody's perfect. Now, you are an artist that many have classified as anti-establishment. And, you know, it says Fiasco is also noted for his anti-establishment views, which he has expressed in both interviews and his music.
Yes. On
your Wikipedia page, right there. Now, you've clearly changed some of those views as of more recent and taken a more and seemingly pro-government, trust the establishment stance.
Hold on. You're equating government with establishment. Is that what you're doing?
I guess let's just go with pro-government.
No. You said establishment. You said it twice, and you mentioned this on my Wikipedia page. So let's talk about establishment.
Okay.
And different kinds of establishment. Do you believe every establishment is a government?
Well, the word establishment is obviously broad.
It's broad.
I'm talking about kind of the establishment, you know, I think we all know.
No. You're assuming again. You're assuming that we all know. And you're assuming that that's what that when I speak about establishments, that I'm focused specifically on the government, the U.S. government, the federal government specifically. That's what you're assuming. Right?
Anyways,
but no, not anyways, because I'm also talking about street gangs, which are established. And in certain cases, the street gangs have been around longer than certain local governments, longer than certain cities.
I don't think that's what people mean when they say Lupe Fiasco is anti-establishment.
Whoa. But that's what people mean. I'm talking about what I mean. There's a difference. We're not talking about what people think about me. You're talking to me right now.
Okay. And I understand that. But there is a perception that you are anti-establishment in the classical form of...
That's not classic. It's not classic. You're equating that all governments are establishments. When you speak on establishments, you can only be talking about government.
Then let's stick to our government, my friend.
Right, the U.S. federal government.
Okay,
right?
So it seems that...
Since you brought up establishment, I just want to clarify for folks that there's other establishments that run...
Yes, the bar down the street is an establishment, my friend. We're talking about the establishment. That's all I'm trying to get at, and that's what people mean when they say anti-establishment.
No, but you're doing it again. Like, you can't do that to me, right? Like, establishment isn't just equated with the government. I don't care what the perspective is, because perspectives can be wrong, even in the mass.
Well,
right?
I think there's things far deeper than the government that truly pull the strings, and I think you know that. And I
do, and I'm going to give you them tonight.
Okay, fantastic.
Like both wrapped and given to you. But we need to be very clear about language, because you just can't bundle in, especially as a lyricist, you can't bundle in knowing that connotation exists, right? And that different words have different shades of meaning. Right? And that you can't just focus and group it all in generally. You have to focus on those kind of meanings at the edges that bleed into other things. Establishment just doesn't mean government. And when I critique things in my music, I critique more than the government. I've made more songs than American terrorists and words I never said. True?
Right. Okay. Now, again, let's just go with pro-government then, since establishment is very is a touchy one with you. When did you make a shift into what it appears to me and many others?
What do you consider to be pro-government?
You said yesterday.
No. What do you consider to be pro-government? We can get. I'm not dodging anything. We're gonna get to me. We're gonna get to more. Right? Okay. But what do you consider to be pro-government, so we can define what these terms are that we're using?
Going along with what they're doing, what they're saying, and following these agendas forward, and being vocal about these agendas, and pushing them forward onto other people.
Hold on. Let's clear something up. Are you aware of a term called vague verbiage?
Yes.
You know what it means?
I know what vague and verbiage mean.
Do you know what vague verbiage means specifically?
I guess give us a definition.
It's what you just said. They, agenda, right? That's vague. Like,
well, I imagine there's a lot of conspiracy theorists in the house tonight, so when I do use words like they and establishment, I do have a feeling that they're on the same page, and we don't need to break down these words.
No, you're dog whistling, but there's more than people that's conspiracy theorists in the room.
Of course there are. Of course there are.
Right? So we need to be clear. We just can't use conspiracy theory language, right? When we're talking about realist things, right? I'm not talking about theories. I'm talking about real things, and I'm going to give you a list of very real things, and I'm not going to be vague. Right now you're being vague. So,
well, again, I mean, we're just kind of getting to the beginning of the conversation. I haven't even gotten to get a question out yet.
Right, and that's the thing. It's going to be long and drawn out and real nice. What is your definition of pro-government? Without being vague.
Well, government, in my opinion, has now bled into the medical field very heavily in the past couple of years. The media, obviously.
The FDA has been around for how long?
Yes, I understand, but the connections, it wasn't what it is now. There's a very clear hand-holding going on between...
It was even more heavily regulated in other periods of time. It all depends on what the administration is and who's running that particular department. So the FDA has been around for a very long time, since the 70s.
Of course it has. And they've been on their bullshit for a very long time as well.
But also, the reason that the FDA exists is because...
to make sure products are safe.
Right, because people's making a bunch of bullshit. Right?
Absolutely.
Making up shit in their bathtubs, and people like there's no any type of standards or regulations. So who knows what you were going to buy in the store? right?
So in
keep
essence, the FDA should be a pure thing, but the classic flaw of humanity is that anyone can be bought, and there's been a lot of that going on. I mean, they're clearly in the show Dope Sick, watching how the Oxycontin epidemic came across. You can buy someone at the FDA. So what's to say that isn't happening now as we kind of transition into that as we get going?
What is the definition of pro-government? That I approve of the FDA? Does that make me pro-government?
It seems like your stance has changed.
From what to what?
Listen, man, last night you said the vaccine is safe and effective, and that is a direct quote. That is what
because
these pastors have been telling us for years.
Oh, no, because they are. Because it is.
Interesting. Okay, well, I can't wait to get to that part.
But how does that make me pro-government? Because the government doesn't make vaccines.
Okay, well, the government running a campaign to push them, and they have tied in everything from social networks to the media.
But Chris, they don't make them. Can we agree on that? The U.S. government does not produce vaccines?
The U.S. government doesn't produce anything. They are policymakers, especially the politicians at very least.
Okay, but they don't make vaccines.
No, but they approve them, and they are involved in this rollout that we've seen happen.
Right. They also approve cigarettes.
Absolutely, and I smoke cigarettes. So, everybody's a hypocrite.
They also approve Adderall and fentanyl.
Yes, well, fentanyl's gotten out of control. But yes, no, listen, hey, man, they've approved a lot of bullshit.
And Jägermeister and 100 grain alcohol.
Fireball, which has antifreeze in it, and that's not even legal. I mean, there is so much that is available for consumption in America that's illegal everywhere else. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So, but the government doesn't make any of that stuff.
Okay, so I apologize for my vague use of the word government.
Thank you.
It seems that your stance has shifted a bit, though.
From what to what?
I mean, listen, I grew up listening to you, and you're actually the first artist that I opened for at Hofstra University in 2009.
Did you listen to anybody else?
Of course I did.
Who else?
But in this realm, I would say, the Immortal Techniques, guys like that. When we're talking about this, these were some of the... Say that again?
And he's a really, really good friend of mine. One of the few people in the business that I consider to be like a friend.
Right.
We're clear. And we're not odds.
I believe that.
Me and Tech, okay?
Yes.
So, who else?
In terms of conspiracy music or in general?
Yeah, just whatever.
Oh, in general, what did I grow up on? I mean, Ludacris, Jada, right.
So
Dre, Chronic 2001.
It wasn't just me.
No, of course not.
So
but you had something.
Right. So, but I'm not the sole source of your outlooks and perspectives.
You are absolutely not the sole source of my outlooks and perspectives. I am a grown man. I'm 34 years old.
Right.
But I'm just saying
when Words I Never Said came out, how old were you? Were you rapping? Were you in the business?
Yeah, I was rapping. I would barely say I was in the business, but I've been in the game for some time now.
Okay, cool. So you already had developed opinions and outlooks on the world prior to...
Absolutely, and to hear that reinforced a lot of what I thought, and it was great.
Right.
So let's be clear about that.
And you listened to the whole song, right?
Of course.
Not just the one that about 9/11.
Yes, I listened to the whole
entire song.
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
But
little hints like that. I mean, that's what you were getting from a guy like you or Immortal Technique that you weren't getting from anyone else. They wouldn't dare touch those subjects.
But did you get anything else? Did you get anything else? Any other records on the album? Did you get any of the freestyles? Did you get anything else? If the only thing that you got was Words I Never Said, or did you listen to? I
haven't listened to that album in a minute, but I listened to it in its entirety, and I actually quite enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. So you know there's more on that record.
Absolutely.
Okay,
listen,
cool.
man, I have a song called Raw Thoughts where it's just a tirade of me just going off about my world opinions, and then I'll make a banger just to turn up in your car that has nothing to do with any of that shit. I mean, that's the diversity of an artist. No one wants to hear that on every track, and no rapper should do that on every track. Right. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that...
And I don't do that on every track.
Of course not. Of course not.
The majority of my music is not political at all, right?
Yet again, there is this tie to, quote, anti-establishment that has, garnered you a certain reputation from your past.
No, it wasn't the music. It was things I actually did and said. So I helped finance Occupy Wall Street.
Right. As it said, yes, through his music and interviews, and I'm sure actions. You know what I mean? And being a man of action is the most important part.
Yes, I publicly critique public officials.
Right.
The biggest ones.
Yes, I've done the same myself. I'm sure I'm on a few lists.
So I've walked it how I talked it. Right? It wasn't
as
just...
have I, my friend. As have I.
Actions and things that are also out there.
Yes. Because if you're going to be a man of conviction, action must follow. And otherwise, you're just talking. And I think both of us are men of action and men of strong conviction.
Right. I just wanted to bring that up for the fix in the crowd. It may have felt like that I was kind of like meandering, but he made it seem as if and most people think that the crux and the totality of my music are my political views. And they always reference songs like Words I Never Said and American Terrorist and certain freestyles out of the hundreds and songs that I have.
Of course. And I get the same thing for my Raw Thoughts songs, and then sometimes I'll just drop a song that's just about something else, and those fans will complain. And it's what are you gonna do? And then I got some fans who, when I drop a political song, they get mad. You know what I mean? And they're like, "We just want the music. Don't be bringing politics into it." You can't fucking make everybody happy, And for the record, I didn't come into this wanting to destroy you. I felt like, or you, me, hopefully, it was more about like, yo, I feel like we should have a conversation. You said it, and I said, yeah. Honestly, I think like that is important.
I feel like the tweets that you brought up when you brought up Words I Never Said and some old music was a little bit of a slight. It was a little bit of if I'm being dishonest, or if I'm like being a hypocrite or a liar, which I take offense to.
I don't disagree, but I would say like we were both being a little petty in these tweets, and I will take ownership of mine, and I think you as well.
I'm petty on the tweets. People know that.
Yes. So
I'm being petty right now, just intellectually.
So I mean, which is fine, and I think we didn't come here to be petty. You have me keep dancing around this. How you've shifted the stance. You have been continually agreeing with the official narrative. Can we call it that? Can you agree with?
No, we can't call it the official narrative.
So what words can we use here, Lupe?
You call it an official narrative because you need to frame it in a certain way.
I don't need to frame it in a certain way. That's what it is. It's there's really no dancing around that. You could keep trying to redefine every word I say, but
you need to centralize it so you can attack it in a certain way. So it needs to be official. Because if it was unofficial, then it wouldn't have any weight. So you have to give it weight.
There is one narrative that is currently allowed,
which is
the official narrative,
which is
the vaccine is safe and effective, my dude, which you did say.
Right.
And I must say that I strongly disagree with that, and we haven't been able to get to that yet, which is fine.
No,
but that is the official narrative, and for you to say that's not the official
narrative. We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. And where did that narrative come from?
That narrative came from every power that be. I mean, that probably goes for the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. You know what I mean? Like, these are the marching orders that the whole world has. America is not isolated in this. You know what I mean? Australia, Canada, even worse.
Let's talk about some of these groups. Let's talk about the Rothschilds. Do you know any Rothschilds?
I do not.
Why not?
Personally, no. I swim in different circles. I do not know much in the way of elites at all, personally.
There's a bunch of them out here. Not all of them are like filthy rich. There's a bunch of them in New York.
I'm sure. But that doesn't pull away from the ones that own the banks.
Do you know? So they have banks. Do you know anybody that works at their banks?
No, I don't know anyone who works at those banks. Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Who run certain Rothschild banks? I do.
I gotta say, I find it a bit frustrating that you won't even give me that there's an official narrative. You won't even give me that.
I'm not saying that they're
like, you know what I mean? It's like you're just trying to dissect every word and how
what I'm trying to get to when you say an official narrative, right? Is it comes from someplace? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It was generated, and I said, who made it? Right? You just mentioned how many groups? You mentioned Rothschilds, not a government organization.
I think the World Economic Forum is the one to watch.
Right. World Economic Forum is not a government organization.
Well, it's more powerful, I would say, than any of them.
It's like Coachella.
Sure.
You know that, right?
It's like a real shitty Coachella,
but
very bad people.
But it's not a government organization.
It is not a government organization. It is a collection of the most powerful people in the world
who throw a summit.
Yes.
And invite.
And I'd like to talk about their latest summit at some point if I'm able to get to anything.
But they're not a government organization, and they don't make vaccines.
Okay, but I do see them as the decision makers.
The Rothschilds, right? Is there like a Rothschilds medical pharmaceutical company?
No, that was Rockefeller. And we're all on Rockefeller medicine to this day.
Right, we're talking about Rothschild. I'm trying to eliminate.
I understand that.
I'm trying to eliminate who's part of this generating this official narrative that matters. Right?
I just said the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, but they don't matter because they don't make vaccines.
That is bananas to say that they don't matter. They are the big bad wolf.
When it comes to vaccines, they don't have anything to do with vaccines.
Absolutely are. They ran a pandemic precursor training class right before they did it to see what would happen.
There's all types of war games and threat assessment, red teams, and those are happening right now. For all kinds of scenarios. That's been
right. Yeah, right. It's a little odd when the one that they just did happens right afterwards. But I mean, I really think
they do them all the time. But you're not talking about those. They do them all the time. They're doing them right now. They're preparing.
Well, the latest one they did. All right, since maybe we just jumped to that.
No, let's not jump to that.
Sure.
Rothschild's Pharmaceuticals. Does it exist?
No, I don't understand. Listen, my dude, I'm talking about the World Economic Forum. I am talking about Klaus Schwab, who heads it, and I'm talking about the people involved in it. All of them, I do not know, but I know that they are the decision makers.
Does the World Economic Forum produce research analyze.
This is trivial. This is trivial. No, they pay the people to produce
and we remove
and
them
test
from that. What I want to get to is, and the people I focus on when it comes to the official narrative, is the people who make and research the vaccines. I'm not worried about who promotes them, who doesn't promote them, like what. And
my biggest question out of this is, why are you one of the people who promotes them? But again, I mean, it seems like we can't get to anything when we keep getting held up on these trivial points.
The reason I do it is personal.
And as is your right. I started this by saying I'm pro-choice, and
right. Any time that I've had these conversations across the entire pandemic, right, on record, you can go YouTube right now, because people took the IG lives and recorded and put up on YouTube. I always say, I don't care if you take the vaccine or not. I don't care if you I don't care if you wear a mask or not. I don't really care what you do, right?
Your stance seemed a little counter to that, but continue.
Brother, hold on.
Okay, all right.
If you don't want to take it for personal or religious reasons, fine. Just say, I don't want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, my reasons are not religious, but I do not want to take it.
But the moment that you bring in science,
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Hold on. Or politics about the vaccine.
Yes.
Then we have a problem.
Well, we don't have to have a problem. I came here to have a conversation.
No, I'm just saying this is what I'm putting to the folks that I've done IG lives with. I've done tens and tens of these with folks just like you.
Yes.
Right. So my personal relationship,
and I've done none for
my personal relationship to the vaccine and why I promote it has nothing to do with Pfizer, which you alluded to, that I'm getting paid by a pharmaceutical company. I would like to see.
Well, I appreciate you at least admitting that you promote the vaccine. So thank you for at least admitting that.
Yeah, the reason I promote it is because my homie's mom died. He was in a coma, and I almost lost him. And I cried like a baby. Hold on. Don't interrupt. I cried like a baby, like a whole baby. And you know who he is?
I do not.
The man who made Kick Push. The man who produced all those records. The records that you listened to, that inspired you. That same guy, my Ace Cone Boom, my man soundtrack. Hurt me deep.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that.
Right? Lost his mom's because he was sick and his mom was trying to take care of him and she called him and got sick and died. So I don't really care about anybody else. Right? That was enough for me. It ain't got nothing to do with Pfizer, ain't got nothing to do with politics, ain't got nothing to do with the FBA, the government, my political positions. It was, I seen something occur that did not need to occur, that broke me spiritually, mentally.
Okay.
Right? That if I can use my platform to help at least spread, to write some of the information, to dispel some of the myths when people bring up Tuskegee and have no idea what Tuskegee actually happened at Tuskegee, and I do, and I can inform them to it and kind of write them a little bit. Doesn't mean I'm saying, hey, take the vaccine, but what you're using as evidence to not take it is not correct.
Okay, and listen, the personal stuff, I'm very sorry to hear that. And I am not one of those people who will say that COVID wasn't real. Okay, I had it. It was not fun. And I know it hits certain people harder than others. So I'm not one of those people. But I do strongly disagree with your opinion of the vaccine. And I do think that...
What's my opinion of the vaccine? That it's safe and effective?
That it's safe and effective, and you said you promoted it. So, I mean, I think that we can get to that in time.
Yeah,
you're spinning me around in circles, and I'm trying to make a couple points.
What have you promoted in your music that you think I would take offense to, or somebody should take offense to?
What have I mean, I talk all sorts of shit when it comes to the government. I carry that torch forward.
You said how you was, prescription drugs and all these things. You ever talk about drink alcohol in your songs?
Oh, absolutely. And I've made it very clear I am not a role model, and I don't ask people to follow.
You don't think underage drinking is a problem?
Really getting off the point here, Lupe. Nope, really getting off the point here.
We're getting into the things that we choose to promote as artists on our platforms.
Well, that's what you're choosing to speak about. I came here to speak about other things. So what else have you promoted? I mean, my dude, I do drugs. Like, yes, I've talked about that lifestyle, both the up and the down. Do I think that's a good thing to promote? No. But Eminem did it to me, and here we are, Keep
passing the buck. You're not going to take responsibility for your own actions?
That's not what we came here to speak about. And I did also bring attention.
I told you I knew where this was going to go. This is exactly what we're talking about.
We haven't gotten anywhere where this was supposed to go.
We're talking about promoting things that you feel are negative. You feel that me saying, you feel the vaccine is negative, right? You feel it's a bad thing. You feel it's harmful, right?
Right.
So when I turn around and ask you, what do you promote in your music on your platforms? I
promote a lot of things, but I also don't do it just on my Twitter. Just I make music.
You did it even more permanently. You get paid off of it. I don't get paid off my IG lives. I don't get paid off my Twitters.
Right.
I don't get paid to promote. And like you insinuated, and I would still like to see the proof that I get paid by Pfizer to talk about this vaccine.
And that was me being a dick. That was me being a dick. You know what I'm saying?
So
the
now
money wouldn't necessarily be coming from Pfizer, by the way.
So
I mean, I know the...
So, you was being a dick, so Black.com right back at you. What are you promoting your music?
Okay. All sorts of things, my friend. And most importantly, unity.
Yeah,
and I feel like that is something that we are lacking right now.
All types of harmful products.
No, don't put me in that box. Unity is the main thing.
You actually, were you buying your pharmaceutical drugs?
I've been prescribed Adderall since I was in 7th grade.
Did you abuse it?
I mean, I take it, but I've abused plenty of drugs. Yeah. Like, what are we talking about here?
So do you think you supported the same corporations directly?
I already brought up how hypocritical we all can be, and that was my point talking about myself. I led off with that.
Just making sure, because maybe some of the folks who I brought into this room didn't know that about you, but now they do. That we got two hypocrites. I'm
sure anyone from my end did, but I did start with
two hypocrites on the line, right?
What's that?
We got two human hypocrites on the line.
Absolutely. Every human is a hypocrite at some point or another.
So you're not on a pedestal speaking to the, throwing rocks.
I'm not on any pedestal. I'm speaking for a group that has been more or less silenced and is...
Which group?
The group that is against where things are heading, most specifically with this vaccine, if we could say.
Okay. You're not
and you asked before, I tried to bring up the World Economic Forum. You had me running in circles saying, do they make the vaccine? Do they make the vaccine? No, they don't make the vaccine.
No, they don't.
Pfizer, Moderna, they make the vaccine.
They make the vaccine.
The CDC pushes it. Fauci pushes
on them. Let's focus on them. The CDC doesn't make vaccines.
Give me one good thing to say about Fauci.
Let's focus on them.
Please.
Let's focus on the people who make the vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna. And then the other companies, Johnson & Johnson.
Yes, which, I mean, that wasn't an mRNA. That was a little more of a standard vaccine, but...
Standard vaccine, what does that mean?
Not an mRNA experimental technology.
Oh,
that's what I meant by that.
Okay. What is mRNA experimental technology? What is that?
It is Pfizer and Moderna, and it is not past its test trials. And
how long have they been testing it?
Do you know?
Yes.
Well,
how are we talking about the vaccine, or are we talking about mRNA technology? There's two different things.
I think it more applies to this vaccine since that's what people are getting pumped into their bodies. Do you know why people started to use mRNA vaccine? No, mRNA technology. Do you know what the goal is? Like one of the major goals? I mean, I can't see any upside of them from this side. So please enlighten me.
For not vaccines, I'm talking about mRNA technology and what it is. It's basically delivery.
Go ahead. You clearly know.
Like a delivery system, right?
Right.
Deliver what to what?
Like proteins and such.
And other things, but for what?
I don't even understand what point you're trying to make right now.
There's a difference between mRNA, messenger RNA technology, FYI, messenger. So that's it's right there in the name. Messenger RNA technology, when that was being developed and why, and then applying that technology to vaccines to create mRNA vaccines or vaccines that use mRNA technology as a base. Why would we even want to have mRNA technology?
I don't know where this line of questioning is really going. And honestly, from the get-go, it seems like you've been doing nothing but trying to throw me off balance when I think we kind of came here to specifically talk about something.
mRNA technology, one of the main goals of it, since you can't answer it and you don't know what it is, one of the main goals and why people research it is because it's an efficient delivery system to cure something called cancer. So a lot of the research around mRNA technology as a delivery system is actually cure cancer. It just so happens.
And you think that is something
whoa. It just so happens that the technology allows for other applications.
Right.
And
I think most importantly, we are here to talk about the COVID vaccine. I think that is what our tweets were about. I think that's what we came here to speak about. I don't claim to be an expert on things that I don't claim to be an expert on. And I don't even claim to be an expert on this vaccine.
And that's why you shouldn't be talking about it. Because you don't know what you're talking about.
But you claim you do, yet we are on very different sides of the fence on this particular issue. And I think we're both smart gentlemen.
Right, because you don't know what you're talking about, so that puts you on that side of the fence. And because I do, it puts me on this.
I disagree with that. I mean, listen.
You didn't even know what
mRNA... Can we get to the COVID vaccine, Mike?
Chris, you mentioned mRNA technology, and I asked you what was the difference. You said you didn't know.
It's DNA altering. I know that. And I know how it applies to this
DNA altering.
It creates a spiked protein in the body. And if you'd allow me to get to the side effects,
I want to hear that. I want to hear this science. You don't know how. You don't know what mRNA technology is, but you know that it alters DNA. How do you know that?
Because I've been following this very close. Scientists like Robert Malone.
Woo! Let's talk about Robert Malone. I knew you was going to say him. Let's focus on my man.
I mean, he helped create the technology, did he not?
He surely did. He's vaccinated too.
I believe that.
With an mRNA vaccine that he didn't make.
I believe that. He also spoke that he regretted it.
He regrets it, but that he's alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Did I say that everyone who got the vaccine was dead? I don't understand.
Let's talk about Robert Malone, who seems to be the champion and the only scientist of any credibility that your side can pull up.
That's not.
I've been through this multiple times with him.
So many people in the medical field who have spoken on so many things.
A bunch of chiropractors.
No way.
And general practitioners. And when you do even the slightest look,
Merrick, dude, even alternative treatment, we haven't been able to get there.
My man,
you don't let me get nowhere. How are we supposed to accomplish the damn thing?
Homeopaths and acupuncturists. Is this what we're doing? I've done this many times, Chris. I've done this for 2 years. I've seen all this.
Well, then you'd think you'd be a little better at having an open dialogue conversation.
I am having an open dialogue with you. Let's talk about Robert Malone. When's the first time you ever heard of him?
Obviously, it was on the Joe Rogan podcast like so many others.
Right, so you've never heard of him before, ever?
No, had you?
When is the first time you ever heard of Dr. Fauci?
I mean, I hadn't heard of him because I was very young, but he obviously showed his terrible face back in the AIDS epidemic, to which I have a firsthand account. My general practitioner was working at the time at treatments for the AIDS crisis. Found something that was working.
No, that's secondhand. That's not firsthand. Firsthand is you were there. You're getting the secondhand information from somebody who was.
My general practitioner was one of the people working on something to help with the AIDS epidemic. They found something that was working.
Whoa. Something to help? What was
this fucking guy, bro?
I am that fucking guy, Chris. You fucked up.
How did I fuck up? I can't even say a sentence.
Because you're being vague, so you're not saying anything.
You are representing your side of this argument very poorly, because this is why there's no conversation happening. You don't even let us talk. This is why we felt silence for so long.
You're not saying nothing.
I haven't had an opportunity to.
First you say, I have firsthand knowledge from a guy who's my general practitioner, which immediately eliminates you having firsthand knowledge. That's immediately secondhand knowledge.
So he has firsthand knowledge. Oh my God, you want to dissect everything.
Then I do, because that's where the facts live. That's how.
I began to retell my story by saying my general practitioner was one of the doctors working on something that would help.
See, that's not enough, Chris. Something that would help. That's not enough.
What do you mean? They didn't have a cure, so they were working on anything that would help with the AIDS epidemic, which was a big problem in the 80s. So anyways, to get to the end of that story, they found something they were having some success with.
Hold on, rewind. Why is AIDS hard to fight?
This was the 80s, and Fauci was
very hard to fight now. Why is AIDS hard to fight?
Are you going to let me get through the fucking story?
I want you to get the science, which you said you had, which you said you were going to get to. And
dude, I never claimed to be a scientist. I'm a hip-hop artist. No, I got some facts, and I came here to have a conversation. So you're not letting me say anything. And this is what your side does.
You said earlier we was going to get to the science, right?
I did not say...
You're skipping over the science. Yes, you did. You're skipping over things that involve you to bring up the science, and you're not bringing it up, and that troubles me. So when I ask you...
When have I had an opportunity to?
You have one right now. Why is AIDS so hard to fight?
I was telling a story about my GP, okay, who was working on something. During that time, Fauci threatened to cut their funding if they continued any further. That is me talking to an actual doctor who was actually on the front lines of this. And this is only to discredit Fauci.
But
we haven't even gotten to this one. This is ridiculous.
Chris, let's just rewind everything you just said, right? You expect us to believe, right, what you claim to be firsthand knowledge, which isn't, because it's secondhand knowledge, because you weren't there.
His was firsthand knowledge.
This doctor, you got firsthand knowledge of your general practitioner telling you, but you don't have firsthand knowledge of what your general practitioner experienced because you weren't there. So he has firsthand knowledge.
But I have Pfizer documents that were forced to be released right in front of me right now. And it's 8 pages of side effects. Can we talk about that, or are you going to just be sending me in a circle?
I want to educate you and exploit this for the people listening that follow you, so they can realize that, yeah, you're a good guy. You relate to them, right? You speak the talk, you walk the walk, but there's certain things that you genuinely and honestly do not know what you're talking about.
No, but there's some things that I do know, and if you'd allow me to finish a sentence,
what exactly was your general practitioner working on?
That was a story to just give a little baseline to Fauci. Do you want me to start reading off the adverse effects?
So he could have been. If you don't know, we can just get imaginative, which is what you're hoping to do. You're hoping what you're hoping is, with your story and how vague it was, that people would imagine. That you would imagine that your general practitioner was working on something that was going to cure AIDS or help fight it or help fight off the symptoms.
God, I'm not here to get in the weeds about this.
Hold on, my guy. Hold on. Then Fauci, right, being evil Fauci, was like, no, we can't cure AIDS. We got to keep AIDS going because we need to get these things and we need to treat blah, blah, blah. That's what you're hoping that's what it did, right? Because you gave us no details,
no information about what he did. Take away his funding when they found something that was working with my secondhand knowledge from my GP. He was a great man, a wonderful man.
What was it?
I don't have the name of the thing, man. Like,
Wow.
what the fuck?
So why
He
would you
was
bring it up
there.
if you don't
Neither
have
of
that-
us
if you don't
were.
have those details? Why would you bring it up?
Anecdote to speak on Fauci.
But you didn't bring any evidence. You just
We
said that
could
he
get
took.
to the
but you just said that-
770
but yo,
types
my
of
man.
adverse effects that the
But
VAERS has reported.
Chris, you
As
just said
July
he took away
29th.
his funding, right? As if people don't get
Oh
their
my
funding
God,
snatched.
bro.
Hold on. As if people don't get their funding snatched for all kinds of reasons.
Oh my God! All right,
Right?
can we get to the? How about the European Medicines Agency
No,
published
let's
in
get back to
July?
let's get back.
The
Let's no,
shot
no,
caused
hold on.
46,618 deaths and 4.6 million injured in Europe. Okay,
How many people died?
29,635 deaths and 1.3 million injured in the U.S. And that is only what's reported.
From
If
what?
12 heads of romaine lettuce got people sick, they would pull it from the supermarkets all over the country. How are you going to tell me
No,
that
they
this
wouldn't.
vaccine
Terrible
is not
analogy.
having adverse effects? How are
Yo.
you? So you're going to go against VAERS?
Yo. Do you know what is considered to be a adverse effect from a vaccine on VAERS? I know exactly what VAERS is. I know how it's funded. I know how the vaccine
you
course
could
work. Wait,
name-
stop. I know how the vaccine courts work. I know how all that works. Like, let's not get it twisted. You're not talking to some random rapper, some dude who don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
My
Chris.
dude, I have 8 pages.
The reason you know what can get on VAERS and be considered a vaccine, quote unquote, a vaccine kind of harmful reaction or something like that.
Everything on these 8 pages.
So you can get poked with a needle.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking
but that's what VAERS
we're talking
is.
strokes. We're talking.
No, but that's what VAERS is.
We're talking infant death and stillborns.
First of all, VAERS
What are you talking about?
VAERS doesn't have that information facing public.
All right.
Right? VAERS just reports that something happened.
No, there are accounts.
Yo, my man.
Of every single patient on there and what happened to them. What shot they got.
And when you dig into that, a majority of them are like, oh, you got poked in the wrong place. Had nothing to do with the vaccine.
I don't think that's the case, no.
You don't think that's the case. I know that's the case. There's a difference.
Well, okay, let me go as far as saying I know that's not the case.
Then you're lying.
I was reading them today. I mean,
you were reading VAERS accounts today.
Why
would you? If you were reading VAERS accounts today, why do you have reports from other countries?
Have you seen the documentary Died Suddenly?
Died Suddenly. You know how many documentaries I've seen? You ever seen Zeitgeist?
I have. A long
you ever seen
time
Corporatocracy?
I have not.
You ever seen Bowling for Columbine? I've seen all them shits. Yo, my man, how are you going to have? How are you telling me that you're reading VAERS reports and you're pulling numbers from other countries?
That was not when I was talking about VAERS. That's when I was talking about the European Medicines Agency. The VAERS was the 770 types of adverse reactions.
How many of those people had pre-existing conditions? I
mean, either way, people were not told that there were any side effects.
How many people? There's a great tagline that there's no such thing as side effects. There's just effects. Right? It's just effects. It's not side effects.
I mean, I call them vaccine injury, is what I call them, or death.
You call
death. You know what I mean?
You call it whatever, my man. How many of those people have pre-existing conditions?
You'd have to ask them, but I would say that the numbers are so large that there's no way you could put that in a box.
Chris, do you know?
I mean, we're talking about millions of people.
Chris, how many of those people on the numbers you just read off to me from wherever you got them from? How many of those people had pre-existing conditions, Chris?
Out of millions of people, I don't know, dude.
You don't know, so why are you talking about it?
Nonetheless, are you telling me that they should roll this out, say it's effective, and not warn anyone, regardless of their pre-existing conditions?
Chris, why are you so adamant and confident to talk about things when you said this on almost every subject we talked about? You don't know. You don't know about mRNA technology.
Okay.
You don't know how many people on that list have pre-existing conditions.
Yeah, but I do know the things that I did.
Wait, hold on. You don't know what your general practitioner was working on to get his budget for Dr. Fauci. You do not know how many people on that list have pre-existing conditions. Why are you so confident bringing up this stuff when you just said you don't know?
There's a lot of things I do know, and there's a lot of things I don't. And quite frankly, it seems like there's quite a few you do and don't know as well.
Such as?
I mean, I just wholeheartedly disagree with your stance on this vaccine. Wholeheartedly. But you said safe and effective. I'm pretty sure what I just said makes the safe part non-valid. How is that safe? 707 types of adverse reactions. Millions affected, injured. Many died. People still dropping. Myocarditis. Heart, like sudden death is now, I believe, the leading cause of death. It's skyrocketed. And I, again, highly implore you to watch the documentary Died Suddenly. I really do, honestly. Just one human to another.
So dying from what?
They're dying from a multitude of different things, but many of them pulmonary.
Pulmonary, or cardiac, from the heart.
Yes, pulmonary. Pulmonary's, yeah. No, pulmonary's heart.
Right. So
pulmonary's heart.
So people are dying from heart disease.
Right. But pulmonary's heart, not lungs. You know, since you were holding me up on all my words,
you got me. Like, do you know what was the leading cause of death before COVID?
I'm guessing you do, but at this point, I'm just saying that the leading cause of death is died suddenly.
Do you know what the
And that's
leading cause?
alarming.
That's no way. That's not. You're not gonna write died suddenly on a death certificate. That's not gonna happen. No way in the world.
Well, actually, it's called sudden adult death syndrome. It's
but you're not
shortened by ADS.
But why? Why? What are they dying from?
It's called sudden adult death syndrome. They don't know, and the only people who are finding it is the undertakers when they're pulling things out of their veins.
Hold on. So it's called sudden adult death syndrome, and what's causing it?
They believe the vaccine. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to connect.
Chris, you just said they don't know.
Well, what's interesting about the documentary Died Suddenly is that it's come to find out some people do know now, and they are the people who are preparing the bodies, and they're pulling things out of people's veins that look like calamari. And the only thing in common with all of these people is that they're
pulling things out of people's veins that look like calamari. What is this vague? What is this? What are we doing? Which body?
I don't know how that's vague. Have you ever had calamari?
Undertakers don't even do autopsies. What are you talking about?
They prepare the body. They drain it of blood.
But they're not looking for it diagnostically.
They can't avoid it. It's in their bloodstream. It's in their veins.
Do you know how much stuff is in your body right now that looks crazy? That people.
It doesn't look like calamari in my veins.
Okay. Chris, what's the leading cause of death prior to the pandemic?
I'm sure you know. So why don't you tell me?
It was heart disease, Chris.
Right. So I can only imagine that this would amplify things. Something that affects the pulmonary to such an extent.
It was already happening. Where was this crusade and all of this banter and talk when the leading cause of death in America was pulmonary and heart disease?
This crusade came from us being told we were forced to get something that only made it worse.
Hold on. Where were the documentaries and all of the banter and the Twitter warriorship, right, and the YouTube channels to fight heart disease?
I mean, there is the American Heart Association, but they also get money from big meat companies. Like, that's, you want to talk corruption, we could go in circles all day.
Chris, they're not even doing it now. They're not even talking about heart disease now.
I mean, I don't think that's fair. They've been talking about heart disease for a very long time. This is obviously different because no one was forcing a burger in our mouth if we wanted to cross a border.
Have you been talking about heart disease this vehemently as you've been talking about vaccines prior to the
No. You want to eat a burger, you want to eat a burger. And again, you want to get a vaccine, you take a vaccine. But that's not the position that they put us in.
The burger's going to kill more people than the vaccine will.
Well, I guess time will tell that. And like I said last night, time will tell a lot of this.
Well, no, it won't.
Yes, it will.
Time has nothing to do with this.
Time has nothing to do with this?
No, because the human memory is inherently false.
Right.
Right? It rebuilds things that happened in the past. You think you remember things right now straight that happened to you that never happened to you. Right? They didn't happen in the order that you think they happened. You know how much shit you forgot? And you mean to tell me
I'm talking about medical research. Right. I'm not talking about what I remember. Like, yes, of course, that's what science is. It's a collection of data that grows over time, especially with something as new as a vaccine being rolled out to the public.
But science has to also be published and distributed to the public.
Absolutely. And they cut a lot of corners on this vaccine.
Ooh, wow. Okay. How do you know that?
Because the FDA rushed these things along. There's clearly
How do you know that? Do you work for the FDA?
Of course I don't. Shoot me the day I do.
So what are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about? I don't
How do you know that they rushed the vaccine? Do you work for them? Have you ever
worked
for them? Okay, so
I asked you. You're the one who's supporting this shit.
How do you know?
How do I know what?
You know why I support it? Because I have a relationship to science and the government that you don't.
Okay, interesting.
Right?
Elaborate. I think science is a very interesting thing that I'd be happy to touch on because it changes constantly. And,
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Oh, it absolutely does. When we grew up, we were told dinosaurs look one way. Now, we find out they had feathers. Science is constantly changing.
No. Like I said, science is at the mercy of being published. Science has to be published. The books that you read it in were published.
Yes, but people are learning new things all the time. It's a collaborative effort.
Hold on. I'm educating you right now, Chris.
Okay.
Science has to be published. So there's biases. Right? There's certain scientists who want their particular theories or the state of that particular art at that particular time will go into the books.
Absolutely. And
products as well. But science also, just like people's opinions, they get updated, right? As new information is found, as new archaeological digs are found, as new species are found. Every dinosaur didn't have fucking feathers. So that's not a lie, right? There was some dinosaurs who had feathers.
Neither of us really know because we weren't there. But it's just an example to show how the opinion by scholars can change.
Okay. So I have a deeper and closer relationship directly to science, experimental science, research science.
It sounds like it.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Do you know where I work?
MIT.
What do you think we do there?
I'd be skeptical to even wonder.
Come visit.
Those age-old establishments, and here I go with my establishment words again. They do make me a bit uncomfortable, and I know that there are.
Come visit us.
I'm sure there's great things that happen there.
Wonderful things. Fighting all type of diseases, growing like stem cell research is amazing.
I'm sure.
The things that scientists are doing. Scientists that are just like you and me, regular people.
So for someone who has such a deep-seated connection to science,
Yes.
and then also on the flip side say that science doesn't change, I don't.
Excuse me. What I meant by that was that the basic principles and the fundamental principles rarely change, and
Of course, you got to get peer reviewed.
Whoa! Some of them don't change. What happens sometimes is different fundamental kind of scientific processes get applied in new ways. That doesn't necessarily mean that the base science has changed. Right? There are new understandings, and in some of those new understandings, when you do apply science in a different format or a novel application, there's a new cascade of information and data that comes out of that needs to be processed and peer reviewed, like you said, put into white papers and stuff like that. Right? So it's more so the applications of that science. Right? When you see some type of evolution or what have you, right? And the computer revolution brought in things like computational science, and people are using algorithms, and it's really they're doing that because it's actually easier and safer than doing it in a lab or doing it in silico or something. They do it in vitro and things like that. So there's certain advancements where it's like, yes, when you bring computers in, right, they're going to be people who use, scientists who use computers to study biology, and it's going to look different than using biology in test tubes and petri dishes. Okay. But the biology is the
trivial,
same.
I'd say.
Not trivial at all.
Getting at the fact
not trivial at all, because that's what makes the vaccine. So it's not trivial. It's to your point. It's to support your point to a degree.
Do you think this has been out long enough for us to know for sure? Be honest with me. What? The COVID-19 vaccine.
How about this? Has the coronavirus been out long enough for us to not take a vaccine? Which do you trust more, the coronavirus or the COVID? I
haven't taken one.
What do you?
I don't get the flu shot.
Do you? Oh, me neither. Do you trust coronaviruses or do you trust vaccines more? Do you trust viruses or vaccines more? Which do you trust?
I think that's a loaded question.
It is loaded.
You know what I mean?
Which do you trust? Do you trust viruses or do you trust vaccines?
I don't think that's a question that I need to answer. First of all, how are you going to trust a virus?
Exactly. How do you trust a virus?
How do you also trust a vaccine that is clearly not have enough time to be researched properly?
What's enough time?
I mean, these things normally take, from what I could understand, years. If you recall, Donald Trump, they sped this up dramatically.
Whoa. Takes years.
Yeah.
Okay. What's normal? Was this normal? Was the coronavirus normal?
I mean, you want my God's honest opinion about it?
You think it was
not?
Right. So it wasn't normal.
It's patented.
Okay.
And so is the cure.
Rewind. Do you believe that this is normal?
No, I believe it was made in a lab.
No, I'm not talking about that. We can talk about the manufacturing. Let's separate this real quick. Do you believe that the pandemic is a normal situation?
No, but I think it was brought on by design.
I'm not asking you how
I think it was supposed to happen.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking.
What are you asking?
Do you think pandemics are normal?
I mean, they've obviously happened.
Right, but do you think they happen all the time? Do you think they happen all the time? That's the definition.
I mean,
it happens all the time. Do they?
I wouldn't say they happen all the time. I believe the last major pandemic was the Spanish flu.
Yeah, they don't. So they're not normal. They're emergency situations. They're crisis situations.
Right, and these were authorized for emergency use.
Now I'm going to get you into the government a little bit. You ready?
Sure.
So it's a crisis situation. Can we agree?
I mean, the way it was handled.
No, pandemics.
Yes, I guess you could call them a crisis situation.
So when a crisis situation happens in a government, they don't use the normal processes and protocols. They shift to a crisis team. Certain people get promoted.
Fauci?
Stop. Certain people get promoted, whether Fauci's there or not. Certain people get promoted, certain people get demoted, certain teams get activated, certain things get deactivated, certain budgets get pushed here, certain things get pushed here. Certain things get pushed to the forefront, certain things get accelerated, some things get decelerated, right? Because it's an emergency, right? Once it becomes a national security threat, which is what COVID-19 is and was demarcated as, a completely different sort of mechanisms in the government, no matter who was president, kicked in, that they were prepared for, right? The CIA runs these programs all the time. The CIA is not the only intelligence organization in America. There's 18 of them. Then I'm sure, how many of those names do you know?
I doubt many.
Right. You know the CIA, you know the NSA, and you probably don't know any more after that, right?
What are we talking about?
The names of these national intelligence organizations.
Well, the FBI clearly was very corrupt. The CIA, who is extremely corrupt.
Right. So you got CIA, you got FBI.
The CDC, who I would say is extremely corrupt.
CDC is not an intelligence organization. We just named 3. Do you know any more?
I do not.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Okay, there's 15 more.
Okay.
This is all they do. They sit back and they try to analyze and assess and predict national security threats at different stages and at different vector points, right? Whether it be biological, chemical, military, political, social, what have you. And they map them out over a series of periods of time. So some might be a year, some might be 5 years, some might be 10 years. And they produce these assessments and these reports. And they run trials, right? And they run simulations. Right?
Trials didn't go good on this one, I will say.
They've been doing this forever. It ain't new. They didn't do this just because COVID.
I understand that, but this is new. And this situation we dealt with, this is the first time in our lives that we dealt with this.
No. The protocols and the things that you've seen happen were already planned for. That's why you didn't see panic. You didn't see the government panic. Like, we don't know what to do. Fauci came right in. He slid in like a smooth criminal, right?
He sure did. Almost as if he knew what was going to happen before it did.
Because he did. Because they've already simulated this and trained for this.
And he's also one of the owners of the patent of the virus itself.
So do you believe that you should be prepared for these situations or not?
Obviously, you should be prepared for these situations, but you shouldn't create them in a lab.
How would you go about that? How would you go about being prepared? We're talking about, I'm giving you game on the government. It's free game, homie. Take it or leave it. How would you prepare for these?
Well, like I said, there's a reason I'm not in government. I wouldn't have the authority to say. And I would say nor do you, because you also are not in a position where you've been trained to do these things. I question the motives.
Do you know that
That's
for sure?
what I do.
Do you know that for sure? You don't know my background. You know my foreground.
Are you trained in pandemic-related rollouts of what a government should do?
Yes.
Interesting. Do elaborate.
No.
Okay.
So are you? You just said no.
No, I'm absolutely not. No, of course not.
So I'm giving you game.
Yes.
How would you prepare for it? What would you do differently?
Not roll out an experimental vaccine that has been maiming and killing people.
So what would you do?
Well, we could get to alternative treatment and
how effective
a lot of these people were with finding things that weren't the vaccine. That were actually, when it comes to early treatment,
who made Who made those things? Did big pharmaceutical companies make all of the alternatives?
A lot of them were old, repurposed drugs that have been around for a different...
That were made by... Of course. Big pharmaceutical companies. And
of course, but we're talking about like anti-parasitics and shit of that nature.
Right. And in some cases, subsidiaries of the same pharmaceutical companies that make the vaccines. Same companies.
Okay.
Same investors.
But a lot less money.
Doesn't matter. Money's money.
Well, I think it does to them.
Money's money.
And money's money to middle management of this world. And I think that there's a layer behind that has all the money.
What would you have done?
And what are their motives? I guess, can I frame that question? What are the motives of those who are truly behind the wheel of where this planet is going and have more money than they could ever need?
At which level?
I'm talking the highest level. The people who print the money, you know?
The mint?
I'm talking about the World Economic Forum. Let's talk about that.
They don't print money. They don't make money.
I was using that as an expression.
But you can't use that because they don't make money.
Fair enough. So we won't talk about the mint, and I won't use any loose expressions. Kind of joking around.
Yeah, don't
listen, these are people who have more wealth than any other human beings on the planet. The World Economic Forum, the people who meet there, most of them. I'm not saying there aren't some outlier billionaires.
There's some broke people that go there. The World Economic Forum is like Coachella. I have to remind you. There's a lot of people go to WEF. Various salaries and wages.
I'm sure some of them are more government officials who are on more meager salaries. I'm talking more about the Gateses, the Schwabs.
So let's talk about Bill Gates. You said fuck Bill Gates.
I did. I actually say it at all my shows on stage.
Why'd you say fuck Bill Gates? Because first
of all, I don't like him. I never did. I don't like his face. I don't like anything about him. I just don't. That's my own personal thing.
What?
I don't like anything about him. Like I said, his appearance bothers me almost in a Ted Cruz sense. I just don't like the way he looks. Part of me just wants to stop him.
You don't like
That's my own personal shit.
You don't like anybody that looks like Bill Gates?
I don't like the way Bill Gates looks. And if someone else looked like him, I probably wouldn't like him that much either. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a known eugenicist and has always believed that the earth is overpopulated. And he's gone on record that he would like to see less people on the planet. And I would like to not take my medical advice from a guy who thinks that the world is overpopulated. He also has no medical degree.
Yes.
I think that's valid when he's a big vaccine guy.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. He's one of the smartest people on earth. Like, extremely smart. Like,
I'm sure he is. Anyone who's managed to manage that amount of wealth and is still in the game.
Well, the schools that he went to, and the degrees that he got, and the classes that he passed.
I never said he wasn't intelligent. In fact, I would say he's probably of the highest caliber of intelligence.
He's super duper smart, extremely.
I absolutely believe that.
Right, a very, very, very savvy businessman too.
I absolutely believe that as well. I mean, how could he not?
And because he understands, like, prediction models and what's coming next, he can kind of position himself to be at the forefront or the nexus of very, very interesting kind of like terminals of technology and social conditions and able to profit off of that.
Sure.
Yes.
Now, would you refute the claim that he was kicked out of India for crippling 490,000 children roundabout between 2000 and 2017 with his polio vaccine?
We're talking about the polio vaccine.
We are indeed.
We're not talking about the polio vaccine directly, though, right? You know that, right?
We're talking about his use of it in India between 2007 and 2017.
Yeah, yeah. And
2000 and 2017.
Also, your number's way too high. It wasn't that many people.
I heard 490,000. He was also kicked out of India for a time. I do think that's interesting.
He was. I don't believe he's ever kicked out of India. But we can talk about that.
Snopes would tell you he wasn't, but a lot of other sources would say he had.
But you know that's not directly the vaccine. You know that comes from, right?
I mean, when you cripple that amount of children,
but do you know how it happened?
How you could speak on behalf?
Do you know how that happened? Do you know how that happened?
I don't know, but he was the one.
You don't know. Again, you don't know. Why are you talking about this when you don't know?
Then please enlighten me.
So it was a live polio vaccine when they inoculated the kids.
Okay.
The places that it was needed, where there was actually polio, maybe you could just think a little bit about what does a place need to look like to have fucking polio in the 2000s, right? These rural areas, right, with little to no sanitation,
right?
No sewers, right? And what was happening, that the systems that they had were mixing with the groundwater. And so these kids and these people got inoculated with shit, right? And the vaccine would still be living in that shit. And then they would shit in wherever. It would mix with the groundwater. And guess what people drank?
Right.
Right.
Sanitation's a big problem out there.
They drank the water, and guess what they contracted?
Polio.
Hey. Is that Bill Gates going down and injecting people with polio?
Well, I read from one source, it was a vaccine rollout of 50 shots before the age of 5. Now, don't quote me on that, but I don't know. Why does he see the need to do something that could have such a horrible effect on so many children?
Because as smart as he is, and as good as he is in modeling predictions and being at the nexus of the interface between certain technologies, right, and being able to profit from them,
right,
he's also human.
Of course.
Right? And he can't
That's a big fuck up, though.
Wait, he can't foresee everything. And then it's something called wicked problems. That's a term that they use a lot in the agency. It's called wicked problems. There's problems that when you solve one thing, it creates another set of problems. And those things are very hard to predict. So in America, where we have great sanitation, you deliver a polio vaccine, it eradicates it. It never comes back. It's coming back now because of you niggas. Right? You anti-vaxxers.
I never claimed to be an anti-vaxxer. I have a problem with this particular vaccine.
So for us, because we have a sanitation system and that separates the shit water from the water we drink, we can eradicate polio and not have to worry about this secondary kind of reinfection. But when you take that same program to India, right, and you don't have, or you make assumptions, and you don't look at all of the variables that could potentially happen,
right, he fucked up.
Then shit like that happens, and
it was a catastrophic result.
He fucked up. Yeah, he fucked up, man.
Thank you for giving me that. I appreciate it. And may I also just go back to your previous point?
But he didn't. But he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't. This wasn't directly from the vaccine. This was from a secondary effect and a lack of foresight.
Well,
and people were infected.
Be that as it may.
People were infected with polio from drinking the water.
I mean, I must also reiterate the fact that he's a known eugenicist. He made that pretty clear. He wants to see less people on the planet. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe these things aren't such a coincidence.
Do you want to see more people? Do you want to see more people on the planet? Let's play devil's advocate.
I'm not God.
Do you want to see?
I don't ever want to play it.
Hold on. Do you want to see more people on the planet?
I didn't say that.
Okay,
but I am in no position, nor would I ever feel comfortable playing God.
You want to see the same amount of people on the planet?
I think that's a very complex question, and another loaded one.
It is loaded. You don't want nobody to die?
No, death is a part of life, but
death's
a part of the rates.
Part of life, right?
Yes.
Do you want people to not have sex?
I never said that. I quite enjoy it.
Do you want people to wear condoms?
I think it's important to be responsible.
Yeah. Do you think people in places who don't have sanitation systems and, basic kind of needs, that the kids who grew up in those places subjected to a life of poverty and child prostitution and child marriage and all these other kind of adversarial things, their brains grow in very interesting ways because they lack the proper nutrition at a certain period of time between the ages of 1 and 3, so they're stunted for life?
Well, who was really stunted for life? The round about 490,000 children.
It wasn't
affected by this.
It wasn't 490,000. Your number's way too high.
Okay.
It wasn't that. That comes from an.
What's your
I've seen that
number.
I've seen that article.
I've seen several about this. I mean, that seems to be a healthy estimate.
I've seen.
Obviously, it's a flat number, so that's not exactly what it was.
I've seen 9,000. I've seen lower than that.
You might be talking about the HPV vaccine that he unrolled with women out there.
No, I'm talking about polio.
Okay, well, he did that one too in India, which is interesting.
Oh, the polio.
Yeah.
Right. So, do you not want them? Do you want them to have polio?
Of course, I don't want them to have polio.
Do you want somebody?
Another loaded question.
Do you want somebody to approach their problems at all? Like,
you do a lot of loaded questions, don't you?
Do you remember when I said, "Do you trust viruses or vaccines?" This is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You say you don't know what that question is. It sounds loaded. I'm laying it out.
I don't trust this vaccine, and I think I've made that.
Do you trust HPV then?
I got it, and I regret it because there actually has been a lot of things that have come out about that one. I got Gardasil.
Do you trust polio?
I mean, I got those when I was a baby. Luckily, I was born before 1989, before they started really increasing the dosages of vaccine and putting them together with the MMR and all that shit. I think that, as you, I'm sure, know, they passed a bill in 1989 that took away people's ability to sue a vaccine company for any damages.
That's not true.
I believe it is.
No, that's why the vaccine courts exist. And there's out of every vaccine, 50 cents goes to something called this fund, and you have to take your case to the vaccine court. What happened was people were suing companies, medical companies, right, who made all types of other products. They made alcohol and peroxide and all these other things, and they were getting these crazy, gigantic lawsuits and settlements, right, which would bankrupt the company. So yeah, somebody might win this $500 million lawsuit for this vaccine injury, but then it eliminates all the other products that they make, like asthma pumps.
Fair enough, but I said, I mean,
no, stop. So the federal government stepped in and say, hey, we're going to take the responsibility of those lawsuits specifically. You're still liable to all the other shit you make, but this particular thing right here, because the science on it is so kind of fuzzy, and people and the narrative and this, look, we just going to take that and hold that for you. But you can sue and get paid, and people do get paid from the vaccine court. They pay out money every year.
Okay.
And the money comes from the pharmaceutical companies. Just FYI. Now, it doesn't come from your tax dollars. Just FYI.
I wasn't worried about that. With all of these reported deaths and injuries from this particular vaccine, I really do think it's important.
Do you know that's what's happening in 1989?
I was turning 1 year old, so I'm sure a lot of things happen.
Do you know what's happening? Do you know what's happening in the viral and bacterial world right now?
I mean, that's vague. Please elaborate.
Do you believe there's scales of life, right?
Again, elaborate, please.
So there's really, really tiny organisms, and there's really, really big dinosaur organisms, right?
Okay.
And in between, there's all these different scales of life, from the cellular level, right, to the picozoic level, to the viral level. There's all these different types of life.
Well, they say viruses are dead and not a living organism.
Yeah.
That's what science says.
But pathogens, they still lump them in for heuristics sake, for general sake, right? Not to get into the weeds whether viruses are alive or dead, but they get lumped in with pathogens.
Okay.
Things that will kill you, which bacteria, funguses, all these different things. Do you know what's happening right now on that level as we speak?
I mean, again, very vague, and I would ask you to elaborate.
But do you know?
Again, very vague, and I would ask you to elaborate. I'm going to
tell you. So there's a war going on outside. And inside, too, in your body right now. There's a war going on. Right?
Okay.
There's an evolutionary battle for supremacy taking place at the microscopic level that you wouldn't believe. Where certain bacterias and certain viruses and funguses and all these different things are becoming immune to everything that we throw at it because they're trying to kill us. Right? They're trying to propagate and spread their species. They mutate crazy. That's why AIDS is a problem. Remember I asked you that earlier, why is AIDS so hard to fight? Because it's constantly evolving. It's a retrovirus. It's constantly moving around and changing. So to try and have a vaccine for it, it'll change 30 times before that vaccine is even effective. Hence why you need to take a flu shot every once in a while, because the flu virus changes. So imagine hold on. Just imagine if the HIV virus is like flu on fucking the human growth hormone steroids and benching 500, right? It's hiding in the lymph nodes. It's hard to find in the body. It's a very tough, a bitch of a thing to fight, right? That's just that virus.
Sure.
Right? There's all kinds. That's hundreds and thousands. Shit we don't even know about getting cooked up right now in forests. There's deforestation. There's climate change, right? In order for you to put your little records out on Spotify, you know how many trees and shit they had to cut down and power plants needed to be built and shit like that.
I think the way we treat this planet is horrendous. Right? And I donated $50,000 to the Ambalosi ecosystem, as I do every year, to help the elephants and other animals that live in that area. You know, the rangers. And
that's fantastic. That's fantastic, right?
I love wildlife. That's always been kind of my thing.
There is an absolute war happening, and like antibiotics ain't gonna work. It's just not gonna work in a couple years. I want to say that. Let me not say a couple years.
That's another impending problem. Unrelated to this, but very important, and it has to do with the food supply and us pumping the cows.
all in the same thing. And it's cows are one thing, but it's really like we take a lot of antibiotics and we
overprescribing as well, of course.
No, I mean we take Neosporin. Neosporin is an antibiotic. What do you think that does? Right? It's meant to kill bacteria, right? Like it's as simple as hand sanitizer. You washing your hand, overwashing your hands, taking a shower every day, right? Little things that aren't even considered to be necessarily harmful are having a response on the microscopic level. And these little motherfuckers is becoming really strong and really tough, really hard to kill, right? As that's degradation of certain environments, which right? Certain ecosystems. New
Absolutely.
And out that has never faced, as the ice caps melt, they're finding all these different viruses now that have been down there dormant for millions
very interesting
of years. And when them shits figure out a way to get here, it's a fucking wrap.
I always thought that's what the Walking Dead virus, that was my theory, in that show. I always thought it had something to do with that. So I couldn't agree with you more.
The sisters, my fellow colleagues over at MIT and as well as other research institutions all around this world are fighting every day. And they have awareness that, if you know what was going on in these fucking test tubes, you lose your mind.
And I have no doubt about that. And when it comes to virology and some of these bacterial things, like you say, first of all, I am no expert, but I will say that isn't the COVID-19 vaccine. That isn't COVID-19, the virus itself.
It's worse.
But what you're talking about, yes, that is a bubble that's been ready to pop for years. I agree.
It's worse, right? Because eventually it's going to get to a state where you can't fight that shit at all. There's nothing you can do. There's not even your alternative treatments. There's nothing.
Penicillin, Z-Packs. I know about it. Yes, absolutely.
Nothing. None of that shit's going to work.
Yes.
Right? But hopefully it will. Because what that means is that the steps that they take. Now, let me be clear, there's a bright side to the story. The same researchers and the Dr. Fauci's and the people you hate and demonize on a daily basis.
Sure
are
do.
The people that are in these labs, day in and day out, right? Some of these kids are working for nothing, this bullshit condition. It's wild. Come see it. Come see what science lives, right?
Interesting.
Working every day, using their brilliance and their minds, funded by people like Bill Gates who have the money to fund, because it's expensive as shit.
Of course it is.
Just the amount of pipettes and pipette tips that you can't reuse because you can't use the same pipette on the same type of, you moving one virus to here, one thing from here, you can't, the contamination is crazy, right? Like those labs need to be supplied because they're actually at the forefront of saving the human existence from annihilation from the microscopic world. So they're using their minds,
very
and their
true.
brains, right? To
unrelated, but very true.
No, because things like the mRNA vaccine and mRNA technology are part of that.
Okay.
People saying, hey, this shit is getting smart. We need to be smarter. We need to kind of devise and use whatever tools that we can get and see if we can apply this in certain fashions to kind of defeat some of this shit, right? We're not fighting the cold. We're not fighting basic shit that you put a Band-Aid on, right? We need to be able to get to where this thing is right now.
And you think this vaccine has effectively done that for COVID-19?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes. Now,
it's the safe and the effective that you said.
Yes,
and I would like to talk about both of them. I have a little bit less prepared for effective because we were all here to see it. I mean, it started at 100% effective, no suggestion of boosters, and it went to well under 50% from the same sources.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
Not?
It's not true at all.
Please reiterate, explain.
Maybe there's a certain section of the news and information when you're getting your data, right?
I don't trust any of the news. I'm saying the corrupt media came out saying that, and then the corrupt media changed their numbers.
You said you don't trust the media at all. You didn't make a differentiation between corrupt or conservative or political, whatever. You said you don't trust the media, which kind of
I don't trust mainstream media. They're all under the same umbrellas.
What umbrella is that? What umbrella is that?
Several different ones that own a ton of companies. I'm sure you've seen the meme where I hate to bring memes into this, but it shows what companies are all owned by the same very small handful of mega companies.
Yeah, and you know who also owns a lot of companies?
I guess you're going to tell me? That's
LAUSD, La US Teachers Union.
Okay.
Right, your fire department union.
I think unions are very important. I think that's very unrelated as well, but yes.
No, what do you mean? Like the pension plans.
Okay.
What do you think?
Something I'm very much not a specialist in, so I don't even want to dip a toe in that.
But we need to, because we need to talk about who's funding this.
Funding what?
Funding these massive umbrellas. It's
the firemen unions are funding these massive umbrellas?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't know that.
I don't. Okay.
Because you didn't make the connections. Because you only look superficially. You don't look in layers. You don't look in.
Honestly,
right?
After being this deep into the conversation, to say that I only look superficially, I mean, do you really think I only look superficially?
Yes,
do you really think I don't know anything?
Yes.
Interesting. I really find that, because
I do.
I wouldn't say the same about you. I think you're very smart. I think you know a lot about a lot of things. I think we disagree on one pivotal point here.
Right. And when I asked you to advance your point or build up on, you use vague verbiage. When people
I did not use vague verbiage. I gave you specific death and injury numbers in the Europe and the US. I gave you,
and so that's one thing.
Like, I gave you 770 types of adverse reactions according to VAERS by this vaccine. Like, I gave you numbers. I gave you sources.
So that's mom calling. Mama, stop calling. There's those are one layer. What I said was you don't think in layers with an S. VAERS layers.
Okay.
VAERS has layers, right? You think on surface, and that's fine. But
I mean, I take a bit of offense to that at this point because you know what I'd like is for you to refute the things that I said. Refute the death tolls and the injury tolls. Refute the 770 types of adverse reactions that I have in a document in front of me that Pfizer itself released. Please refute that. That is why we are here. That is what the people are listening for. You said safe and effective, and I say bullshit. Are we still here?
yo, that was
There
my
he
mom
is.
Dukes. Shout to mom.
Fair enough. Family first.
Shout to Mama Fiasco. VAERS have layers. You don't think in layers, and you proved that.
Well, no, what I did say when you did go to take that call very conveniently, and I'm not saying it wasn't your mom calling, but I did say, please refute these 770 types of adverse reactions according to VAERS. Please refute these death tolls and injury tolls in Europe and the U.S.
Okay, so,
because you said safe and effective, and I call bullshit.
So, how much do you know about medicine?
You with these loaded questions.
Bruh.
I mean, I've done plenty of them, snorted plenty of them. You know what I mean? Like, I know
Do you know
what your average person would know about medicine and probably a little bit more. I was schooled academic. I went to a private school on academic scholarship. I don't know what you want from me. I'm not a specialist in these fields.
You're not a specialist. How much do you know about medicine? Just basic level. I'm not asking you deep questions. I'm not looking for deep answers from you. I'm looking for the.
Okay, I would say more than your average person.
But how much? Okay, so do you know that medicine has a range of effects?
I'm really just trying to get to the safe in your safe and effective.
Stop. We're gonna get to that. Do you know they have a range of effects?
Sure.
Right. You also know that they have a range of kind of impact and consequence. Right.
This sounds like a lot of dancing around some numbers, man. That's what it sounds like to me. I gotta be honest.
All right, relax.
I'm quite relaxed.
If you pick up any medicine pill bottle or packet in your house right now, everybody, we can do this. This is a family exercise. Go to your medicine cabinet, your kitchen drawer where you keep it. Right. Some of us probably threw away that big ad. You know when you go get your prescriptions for Adderall.
Oh, yep.
Right.
And then send you that big thing full of side effects. Right.
Right. That
most people, not 8 pages.
Wait, but it's big as shit. Most people don't ever read it.
Have you seen how big the one is for the actual COVID vaccine that some people were getting at their pharmacies with nothing on them?
Chris, I need you to relax.
Okay.
So
again, relax.
Chris, I need you to relax. We're talking about medicine. We're gonna get to the vaccines.
I already did.
There's a range, right? A big ass range. What pharmaceutical companies do, their role, their actual job, if you think about what they do as a job, is they're trying to say, hey, there's this one problem. Do I have something that can solve that one problem?
You think the pharmaceutical companies are trying to solve things?
Chris, relax, man. We're trying to solve this one problem without causing 30 problems. Again, a wicked problem. The human body is a very complex thing. It's a wicked problem, as they were saying, the agency again. You do one thing, it causes something else. The majority of the research and the time that's spent in these labs is solving the problems that are caused when you solve that main problem. Then this new problem pops up. So then you got to solve this other problem, right? Or this other effect. Remember, Viagra wasn't a make your dick big pill.
Yes.
It didn't start out like that.
It was repurposed, kind of like ivermectin for COVID-19.
It was a side effect. Or an effect, as I like to say, because there's no such thing.
Like ivermectin working on helping to prevent the onset of COVID paired with zinc.
So there's some things which may have a beneficial effect. There's some things that may have a deleterious effect. But the goal of the research is to do as much testing and studies to see what are going to be the amount of effects that, look, we cannot control for. Like, just so you know, so when you read the back of your pill bottle, and it says, hey, look, there's a risk of this and there's a risk of that, because no matter what we did, there's no way we can stop that. And
are you saying that the people who got this vaccine were advised of these risks? Because they were not.
Chris, wait. Do you want that headache to go away or not? Do you want to solve this immediate problem, this acute problem that you're having right now, or within the next 2 hours or 30 minutes or not?
But we're talking about two different things.
It's all medicine. It's the same company. Pfizer doesn't just make vaccines; they make all kinds of shit.
No, and they were fined $2.3 billion for fraudulent marketing for one of them back in 2004, according to the Department of Justice.
Was there a pandemic in 2004? Do we have?
No, but I think it does speak to the character of this company that you are defending.
Right. But I mean, you promote drugs in your music and drink alcohol, so
I don't sell them.
All right, cool. It's like, so we're not going to paint people for one particular thing when they stand for so much more. You're bigger than the sum of your parts, right?
Of course.
Just like me. Nobody's a saint, but we're bigger. Hopefully the impact that we have is bigger, right? And hopefully it makes up for the damage that we do along the way, correct?
Correct, I suppose.
So when you apply that logic to the medical field as a whole, right? If you want us to get that bullet up out of you, young man, we're going to have to cut this big ass slit in your back. Right? So yes, you're going to have to get cut. Yes, we're going to have to put some numb you up. You're going to get hit with this needle. We're going to do a lot of surgery. We might damage some shit on the way there, but this is worth getting that bullet out of you. Because in the long term, having that bullet in you is bad.
Yeah.
So let's do some
I got to just say, this is wildly unrelated to the topic.
No, so let's bring it back to the vaccines.
Can we please?
Let's bring it back to the vaccines. Yes, there's going to be some side effects. There's going to be some issues. If you have an underlying condition, you want to think twice about taking this. Right?
Is that what they said when they rolled it out?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. I did nothing but watch this.
Okay.
So you're not going to tell me what I've watched with my own two eyes, G.
Likewise.
I watched all of the Fauci interviews. I watched everything he said.
I was quite tuned in myself.
Right? And at the same time, too, I have a general and deep understanding of how medicine works, no matter whether it's a vaccine or some type of balm, right, or some type of pill that you take. I understand how that works, right? There's going to be some costs, right? There's going to be some side effects. There's going to be some things.
770 of them. Can you at least acknowledge that there are 770 types of adverse reactions on VAERS? Can you acknowledge that? And that's as of July 29th, 2022. Can you give me that?
What do they range? What are they? Let's talk about.
I have 8 pages of them, and they're back to back. It is unbelievable. And this is from Pfizer. They wanted to keep these documents under wraps for 75 years. They were overruled.
Let's read them to the people. Come on. Got them right there.
My God. All right. This is going to be tough. Acute cutaneous lupus erythematosus.
What is that?
Acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. I cannot read these things. This is unbelievable. Some of them.
You don't even know what they are. You know what the word.
I think the most common ones are what we're seeing in terms of myocarditis, etc.
You know what the word acute means?
That was obviously the first one listed because it starts with A. So
of them else are listed with A that have the word acute attached to them.
There's some of them, absolutely. This is in pages. This is 770 different adverse reactions.
You got time? You got something to do. Like, can you? How many of them?
I'd like to get back in the studio later, but
how many of them? I'm in the studio right now, which is crazy. What's the acute? How many of them are acute? And what does acute mean?
See, this is loaded questioning.
No, it's not.
I would encourage everyone to go find the Pfizer documents for themselves.
You have them
and
right
read
there
them for themselves. Of course, I have them for myself.
So read them,
dude. It is unbelievable how many there are. 770. You want me to wrap? Herpes dermatitis, herpes gesterniosis.
What is that?
Herpes esophagitis.
Go back to the acute.
Sound like herpes.
You went to H. Go back to H. It sounds like herpes because there's all kinds of herpes.
Yes.
It ain't just dick herpes. Like, herpes is a general condition that comes in all types.
Postpartum thrombosis.
Wait,
that's another one. Ovarian vein thrombosis. There's a few thromboses.
Go back to the A's.
I'm not going to read 770 adverse reactions. Absolutely not. If you think that's a win on your side, that's ridiculous.
I just asked you to read the A's.
So we can tell. There's a page and a half of A's. Ending with axonal neuropathy.
How many of them are acute?
This is such trivial questioning.
No, it's not.
There's probably about, if I had to guess, about 12.
Do you know what acute means?
Acute is smaller. Smaller in scale, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry. I know it's a geometry term, and that's not my specialty.
No, it's not necessarily a geometry term, but there's acute and obtuse. But I mean, as it relates to medical conditions.
Yeah, so I would imagine like a acute angle, it would be a smaller version of this thing. And yes, there's about 10 of those.
It's like a local thing that kind of may come and go, right? It's not chronic.
Right.
Now, we talk about chronic versus acute, then we have a problem, right? But we talk about acute, right?
We're talking about 8 roundabout out of 770 side effects.
Right. So
I think the myocarditis is where we should focus. I think we should focus on all the athletes who have died on the field this year.
Why do you want to focus on myocarditis?
Because I feel like the heart-related things are what's really become the biggest problem. That and a lot of
700 and what?
770 as of July 29th, 2022. Because there's certain things that we're seeing now. We're seeing it with our own eyes. We're seeing very healthy people just drop out of nowhere. I find that quite odd.
Where? Where have you seen that?
All over the place. I've seen
Where?
Soccer players. I saw a compilation of soccer players collapsing on the field in the past
where are you
6
right
months.
now? You in Northeast?
I'm at my house.
Walk outside. Are there anybody just dropping dead right now?
Sure.
Last time you rode the train or the bus, just people just falling like flies.
I didn't say people were falling like flies, but I'm saying a lot of people have fallen.
So athletes.
Healthy ones.
Healthy. What's healthy?
I mean, within a certain age range, first and foremost.
Oh, really?
I'm not saying everyone within a certain age range is healthy.
So how can you tell
roundabout?
How can you judge health? Because they play sports?
I mean, yeah, I would say professional athletes are some of the healthiest people on the planet. They're healthier than me.
Actually, they're some of the most unhealthy people.
Interesting. I mean, yes, I guess if you want to go football players with head injuries. Sure.
Football players, basketball players, joint damage. Like, what is health? Again, what's health? Is it mobility? Is it long term? Are
you gonna
yes, I
really
am.
stick on the point that athletes are not some of the healthier specimens of the human?
They're not. Actually, what you think is healthy.
Interesting.
Right? What you think is healthy is actually a lot of damage. Like, they have to be put together before they go out on the field.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about some of the more high contact sports, yeah, okay, I would agree with that in terms of long term injury.
Any sport, any repetitive action.
Right. I
especially
still find this trivial. I'm not going to back down from that. I would say professional athletes are definitely some of the healthier people in our society.
How do you know that?
Depending on the sport, especially.
How do you know that? Are you a kinesiologist? Are you a sports medicine?
No. Do you think I'm a kinesiologist? I don't even know what the fuck a kinesiologist is.
So how can you talk about the health of athletes? Are you an athlete?
No, absolutely not.
I'm an athlete.
Fantastic. A professional one? I was not aware.
I did martial arts my entire life.
Okay, I mean, and I believe that. I know you've always had a deep connection to that.
You know what it does to your body?
I'm sure that being a high contact sport.
You think UFC fighters are healthy?
I didn't say UFC. I'm saying athletes as a whole. Okay, I'm saying that yes, for sure. Like there are some sports that take a higher toll on the body, man. This is base level shit. Soccer players. I would say they should be pretty healthy. They do.
Which one are we talking about? Because I can name them.
Name what?
The sports where the person might be healthy, and the sports where
I would say soccer players.
Why would they be healthy?
They do a lot of cardio. I mean, they get their blood pumping. I think that's. I think they are pretty strong models of human health.
Because they do cardio and their blood is pumping?
This is incredibly trivial, dude. Like at points, I mean, listen, I've agreed with you on certain things where, you're talking about, eventually we're going to run out of antibiotics. Yes, all of that. Very interesting. I agree.
What you see
but you dance around everything I throw at you. So this is what our side.
So I have friends who are professional soccer players.
Okay. I believe you. I'm not going
to. What you see is what happens on the field.
So they should be dropping of heart problems.
Stop. What you don't see is what needs to happen in the locker room once they get off of the field.
And we're talking about soccer players. This is unbelievable.
What you don't see is the recovery that needs to take place in the off season and the surgeries that need to happen. Right? And
I'm sure there's wear and tear on the body. Again, this is not people dropping of heart problems. This is not young men and women.
Is that healthy though?
I mean,
we're not even getting into the supplements.
I think the listeners for themselves can discern for them, make their own opinions on whether they think professional athletes are on the upper tier of health.
Yeah. You know who doesn't think that?
I'm sure you're going to tell me. People who work on athletes' bodies. I'm sure their joints take a wear and tear. I'm sure.
Bodybuilders are some of the most unhealthy people of all time.
I wouldn't necessarily call that a sport in which I was thinking. I'm not trying to discredit them, but I was thinking more soccer. Because that's what I've seen so much of.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been seeing it in some other sports as of late, and it could all be a coincidence, Lupe. It could. I just don't think it is.
When you look at a field of soccer players, can you point out which ones have had a history of concussions?
No, you can't.
Know that, do you? I know.
But I just find so much of your line of questioning very childish and trivial. And may I just say, my side has been very frustrated.
You know my resume. What is healthy?
This is why my side of the fence on this issue has become so frustrated with yours. Because you won't have a fair conversation, and you've proven that here tonight. Because you have no intention of potentially walking away learning something. I came in open-minded.
I learned a lot about you, and I told you. You said you didn't know where it was going. I knew where it was going because this is where I planned on taking it.
Of course, yeah, you wanted to take it everywhere, but exactly what we were talking about on Twitter last night before you deleted your tweet.
You said healthy athletes are dropping dead. I said where?
Literally all over. I can get that article. I don't have that in front of me, but I encourage everyone to go look it up. And across the board, I encourage everyone to go check everything that both of us are saying who are listening to
a compilation. You said I saw a compilation.
And I've also seen numbers. For the record.
Right? But you make it seem like
it's just very visceral to see it.
Make it seem like it's happening everywhere. Have you ever seen somebody drop dead in the past 6 months?
No, I haven't left my house much other than tours.
So you haven't at your tours? You've seen anybody in your crowd just drop dead? How many
I
drop
have
dead
not
deaths you
seen anyone drop dead. A couple kids passed out, but I wouldn't make the connection that it was related to this. They were probably
hundreds and thousands of possibly people in shows you did, right? Multiple shows. Anybody drop dead?
No one dropped dead.
So what are we?
But I don't think that says anything. And I also think a large percentage of my crowd is actually unvaccinated. Okay, I'm not saying all of them, and I don't judge any of them.
The flip side, when you look at your crowd, are they healthy?
Some are and some aren't. I mean, what the fuck? What is this? Are we comparing fans' health now?
Yeah, wouldn't you think that if your fans who you're with intimately and been around for months and years and nobody's dropped dead, and some of them are healthy, you think they're healthier than the people on the soccer field? No, right?
I think this is an asinine line of questioning.
So you would.
This is ridiculous, and I get why you do this. I get it, dude. You know what I mean? It's like you refuse to have a rational conversation with someone. This is crazy. I can't believe I played into it for as long as I did.
Logic would be that the unhealthy section of the population would be experiencing sudden death syndrome because they're under your logic, they're not as healthy as soccer players. So you would think like, damn, if soccer players are dropping dead all over the place, like in the World Cup. Right?
Don't get too hung up on the soccer players. Sudden adult death syndrome is what you should be concerned about. So all of these adverse effects is what you should be concerned about. That's what I'm concerned about. That's my point.
Right. You would think that you would see a wave because America is one of the most unhealthiest countries on the planet. You would think that you would see sudden death syndrome everywhere, right? Under your logic.
I mean, it's been happening quite a bit. It has. There are plenty of reports of it. Not all of them, of course, connected to the vaccine by design.
If it was happening at the scale that
I think I encourage you to do your own research into sudden adult death syndrome and how frequent this is becoming.
You should be able to walk down the block of any major city.
No, I shouldn't. That's not what I said.
Like flies.
That is not what I said.
Right? Because the soccer
field not right. That's not what I said.
Right? Every soccer field in America is just littered with dead human beings.
Right. You really hyper-focus on these points. Honestly, at this point, I mean, listen, you take it for what it is, but it's very clear that you're not going to allow me to speak. You're going to dance around what I came here to speak to you about. And like I said, this is why my side of this issue has had such a problem with your side. Because
it's not a problem.
You do not respect us. You don't allow us to talk. And you throw us on a line of questioning that has nothing to do with what we came here to talk about.
Because you came here to talk about nothing.
That's not true. I came here to talk about this vaccine that you continue to dance around.
And bring science and bring points.
And still say it's safe and effective, like every newscaster on TV.
But you aren't giving
bullshit.
Any proof. You're not giving any proof. And I just
did. I gave you statistics from respected institutions.
Even your point about the safe and effectiveness of medicines as a whole, which includes vaccines. I'm not excluding vaccines from this, right? There's a range of effects.
I'm not talking about those. I have not been this whole time.
Yo, my man, this aspirin can work one way in one person, and it can work a completely different way on another person out of the same bottle, right? Because people are built different.
Yeah, some people have allergies. So yeah, sure. That's what we're on now.
Expectations, allergies are autoimmune diseases. You know that, right? That's your immune system trying to kill you. You know that, right? But allergies are an overreaction, and they're trying to murder your body's trying to murder you, right? Your body's trying to save you. It loves life so much that it will kill you, right?
Okay.
To save the entire system. Ain't that crazy how your body is just a murderer like that? That's what allergies are. If you didn't know, they're autoimmune diseases, right?
Yeah. Listen. So at no point, and may I also just note, I did not question your intelligence. I'm not saying you don't have interesting things to say. And I'm not saying you don't know a lot about a lot of stuff that I don't know. And at no point did I claim to be an expert. I just think it's very interesting how you handled this conversation as opposed to how I tried to handle this conversation.
Okay. And what I was going to say was what I was going to say and to be mean. I was going to say this and be mean, right? I don't think your side deserves to be at the table and see, I know what y'all talking about.
And I would argue that I brought some things to the table to talk about that you didn't really address. You just started talking about something else.
Listen, tell me what I didn't address.
The adverse reactions, according to VAERS, which you just say everything has those. 770? And like I said, they would take lettuce off the shelves if 12 people got sick.
Yo, you know how many people in the world?
I'm talking about America.
Right, okay. How many people in America? 360 million?
I don't know this. Right. Like, you know what I mean? I would imagine something around that.
700. I'm telling you that it could potentially be 350 million different adverse effects because everybody's body is going to relate to it differently. Something's going to be acute.
And something that might have that many side effects. Do you think that's safe to roll out on the population and force upon the population?
Not force.
To refuse their pay if they don't get it?
My man, if it was forced, you would have it or you'd be sitting in the cell.
No, I don't have a job that required me to get it.
No. If it was forced, you would have it and you wouldn't be.
A lot of people would have had to given up their livelihood if they didn't get it.
Or you would be in a cell or you would have it. Trust me.
We aren't there yet, and I didn't say we were. But I'm very sympathetic to those who had to get it against their wishes to keep their livelihood.
You know how it would have been forced? You know what they would have did if America was the wicked piece of shit place government that you think it is?
They probably would have been a little more like Australia and Canada.
No, they would have put it in the water, and you would have drank that shit and didn't even know. They wouldn't even have made a commercial, said anything. You wouldn't even know it was a pandemic happening because you would have drank the virus fucking 2 years ago.
Right.
You would have drank that vaccine 2 years ago. Trust on that. If they were really the wicked, mean bastards that you make it out to be, there's more ways to get a vaccine into you than just some fucking injection.
Sure, I think there's still something going on with this, regardless of your rhetoric, and I think that a lot of people would agree with me, and I think a lot of people listening to this probably feel similarly about how
they do. I hope they do. I hope they do. The more of you that we have, the more that we have of people like you.
People like me. How nice.
Yes.
How nice. Honestly, the way you like what makes me less a person?
The more people that we have like you, the more it inspires me and my colleagues to fight for you and your rights.
Well, the World Economic Forum is going to do it for you plenty when they put this digital passport in and continue to push even further.
You ever been on a military base?
I've not been on a military base, no. I'm assuming you have and are going to give me an illustrious fact about it.
I've been on many. And the last one I've been on was in Alaska. And it was an air base. And it was a joint base. I think it was Army and Air Force. And the commander walked up to me. And I was always timid about going on military bases because of my political statements.
Okay.
And the commander of the base walked up to me. And he was like, we did a little background check on you before you came in here. Saw some of the shit you were saying. And I just want to let you know that the reason I do what I do is for you to have the right to say whatever the fuck you want.
Absolutely.
My boss isn't the president. My boss is the Constitution. And whatever the Constitution says, I do. And if it says you have the right to speak your mind however you want to whoever you want. So if you felt a little way about being up here, don't worry about that. You're actually the sole reason that I do what I do.
And if what you're getting at by this analogy is that I also deserve to have a First Amendment right, I appreciate it.
But the other part of that is in the position that I'm in and the people that I'm around, because I know it's people like you, it inspires me. I'm going back to MIT even harder for them to push harder, right? To get
us to force vaccines into our bodies? Thanks, dude.
No. To create the next thing that's going to save humanity, right? Because when we look out here and see y'all, we know y'all not going to do it.
That's not necessarily true. I'm saying there's something funky about this particular vaccine.
You're not willing to do the work to do it. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the facts. You're not willing to read the books. You don't think.
I literally gave you actual facts.
For me, it's inspiring that your ilk continue to be the way that you are. Because it motivates me in my position to go back to my colleagues and say, hey, if you need an inspiration or to light a fire under your ass, just know that I just got off the craziest conversation I've ever had. Not ever, because I've had this before, with this rapper, right, who has a big following. And he's telling all kinds of wild extra shit that don't make sense.
What have I said that didn't make sense? Can you tell me one thing that truly didn't make sense or truly was false that I said today?
You need to push harder than you ever pushed before, mixing up the new vaccine for the next pandemic that he's going to cause. Because since he's not
vaccinated. Right. So can you say one thing that I said that was just plain untrue today?
We're never going to get rid of this thing, right? So it's going to mutate and go dormant and mutate into something else in his body, in the body of his friends. And then one day they're going to cough up the wildest, nastiest shit ever. Then we're not going to have anything to fight. So congratulations.
Well, that is one way of looking at it, isn't it now? Clearly, I see it from a different perspective, which I have every right to. And I think a lot of people after this conversation still agree with.
They should.
And I think, if we're being honest, I think you kind of handle yourself like a child in this conversation.
The United States Constitution allows for you to do that. The Constitution protected by the government that you...
Goddamn right it does.
Right, the government that you hate. Remember that.
Well, yes, the Constitution, thank God some of it does still exist. I mean, the First Amendment has been getting eroded dramatically.
Protected by the government that you hate. Remember that.
Yes, but they have been eroding at this. I mean, what are you going to sit here and try to tell me Joe Biden's a good president?
That allows all of the media.
Jesus Christ.
That allows for all of the media that you hate to exist, to have the balanced and fair opinions from all sides, including the wackos like Dr. Malone, right? It allows for that. We need that.
Interesting he's a wacko, but helped create the damn thing that we're talking about.
He's kind of wacky.
I'm kind of wacky. I have no problem admitting that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm wrong about certain things.
You are wrong.
Okay.
I don't want you to think.
I'm going to walk away from this conversation with my same opinion, that you are wrong.
And
that this is not safe and effective.
I just want to let you know.
And Bill Gates is not a good person. So nothing has really changed. I was hoping for a little more productivity in the conversation.
Bill Gates has saved millions and millions of lives. Millions.
I don't even want to get back on Bill Gates. I said what I had to say.
Yo,
Honestly, in this talk in general, I've said what I had to say. It's not safe. It's not effective.
He's
and
saved millions and millions of lives. He's bettered the conditions,
sure,
scholarships, education,
and the COVID-19 vaccine is safe and effective, right?
He's fed he fed millions of people. Tens of millions, hundreds, and he's not.
When you have all that money, it's easy to do nice charitable things. I would like to just let everyone know who is listening. I tried to have an actual dialogue with this man. I really did. Unfortunately, he behaved like a child for
Chris,
2 hours. Unbelievable.
Chris, don't call me a child no more.
I didn't call you a child. I said you were acting.
Don't even compare me to a child. I take offense to that. Stop doing it.
I take offense to a lot of the things you've said to me, but I'm not getting up in arms about it, am I?
I didn't call you a child. I said that you were wrong.
You basically said I was dumb several times.
I said you were dumb, and you called yourself a wacko. I didn't call you that.
That doesn't offend me whatsoever. Okay. Honestly, nothing really offends me.
Right, so
I'm not sensitive.
Calling me a child does. Stop doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me then rephrase that by I don't think a lot of people who are listening would approve of how you handled yourself in this conversation.
That's fine. I'm not worried about that. I never was, never will be.
That's been made clear.
Right? Anything else?
But I don't know how much more we do have to talk about after it seems like we are still exactly where we started. And you think the vaccine is safe and effective, and I don't. And I guess it's for the listeners at home to choose for themselves. And Lupe, with that, I don't think there's really much else to talk about. Sounds like I'm going to get back in the studio. You're going to get back in the studio. And at the end of the day, I'm still going to have Daydreaming in my playlist. All right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for everybody out there, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you enjoy Chris Webby's music and maybe go out to one of his shows. Again, ladies and gentlemen, vaccine is safe and effective. If you don't want to take the vaccine, do the least. Keep a mask with you. You ain't got to wear it. But you never know. Never know when the CIA is going to pump some bacteria into the fucking plane, to test you and see what happens. Just make you try and grow a horn or something. And Drill Music and Zion in stores right now. We'll check that out. Peace.
There you go. Wednesday before last, out now as well.
Yeah. All right, Chris, all due respect. Appreciate you.
Likewise.
You came out and opened for me back in the day.
I did. I won a competition. You were the first. It was the first show I ever had in my entire life. Was opening for you at Hofstra University.
I'm glad that you were able to take that opportunity and build it into everything you built it into.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I'm glad you're still out here doing what you do. You're a very talented artist. And like I said, we have some disagreements. And at the end of the day, I really think the most important thing, dude, is that unity is important and we can disagree. And it doesn't mean we have to hate each other.
Yeah, I don't hate anything.
Good.
Right. But wholeheartedly, for real, with all due respect, man, I really appreciate the way that you were able to build the thing that you built and come from up under the issues that you were dealing with. And I hope that you can even come out of them even more. Right.
Thank you. Personal growth is important.
Indeed. All right, brother.
Have a good night.
Yep. Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.